Hello there, and welcome to the Bitcoin Takeover podcast. I am Vlad, and my guest today is so famous that I knew about him before I even met him. I didn't even know his name, I just knew that he was that guy who made it into the news in 2014 for implanting an, what's it called, RFID chip?
It's an NFC tag. More specifically, it's just an N tag 216. So that's the model number. You can readily get them. Just make sure that it's properly applied and disinfected before use.
Okay, so your name is Martijn Wismeijer, and I hope that I pronounced that correctly. And right now, you are the
That's correct.
marketer
Yes.
for GeneralBytes, which is a project that develops and maintains Bitcoin ATMs around the world. And we have a lot to talk about today, honestly.
Nice to be on your show, Vlad. Super.
So, to be honest, I remember in 2015, 2016, I was reading about Bitcoin and I stumbled upon these YouTube videos of conspiracy theories, and you're being presented as the guy who's pushing the agenda of the New World Order to have everyone chipped with the world currency that's going to be imposed upon, you know, the general population or whatever. I think the
It will be
conspiracies
Bitcoin.
that are about CBDCs today were being applied about Bitcoin at the time, and you're like the poster boy of these conspiracies. And I didn't even know your name, but I was like, this is that guy.
It's funny in a way. Yeah, I got very I would say mixed replies online. Some people thought it was a good idea and saw it for what it was. But with others, it triggered, they will be following you. The world is going to end. We will all be tagged with the mark of the beast. It was like, I didn't expect it. I just wanted to have like a private key and scan it with my phone and have like one for spending and the other one for saving. So I have like two wallets, and the technology was pretty primitive back then. So I just had to make do with the tools we had. Unfortunately, some online, especially the non-Bitcoiners, they thought we were going to be tracked and we would go be tagged like cattle and stuff like that. But I figured my cat already had one of those implants for her entire life. And my dog too, they have like no problem with it. They don't complain about pain or anything. It's just like, food. They complain about food. That's the only thing they complain about. So I thought if it works for them, it will work for me. So yeah, let's do it. And then I got the guys from my Celium wallet back in the time, back in the days to modify it. So they put they helped me modify their software so it would trigger on scanning the formatted Bitcoin private key in an NDEV field. So yeah, it was really just putting two things together and using it. And that's where GeneralBytes at the time said like, oh, let's build in maybe, I don't know if you can see it. See there.
Yeah, the ATM behind you.
Yeah, but that's the NFC reader is there.
Oh, yeah.
So the little black square, that's the NFC reader. So you can just like scan it, scan the ATM, and then that way you can like, spend and save. And it was just an easy way. I think with a lot of work being done in the community, now we have the LNURLs is far better way for point of sale like application. It's a nice way to get rid of the QR codes, and I think it's a novel way to pay with Bitcoin, and it's cheap. So yeah,
Yeah, but it leads to a lot of questions, as in, do you reuse addresses if you have that one chip which has one setup?
back in the days, it wouldn't be very secure because you would have, for example, one chip which had your public key, so you could scan it, but at the same time also have a VIP encrypted private key, and that or not encrypted, because if it's a closed loop payment system, that is no longer the case now. Nowadays, you would put a LNURL type of wallet in it, so you pay over Lightning. So it's no longer, you don't no longer have a key basically there. You're just using Lightning.
So, is there any practical use case for implanting that NFC chip under your skin other than convenience?
Um, I think it's sure is a way to keep your you can keep your private keys there, but you can also store maybe recovery seeds in there. And if you do that with multiple family members or a group, and you create a multi-sig or a Shamir split seed, there's lots of ways that it can fit a strategy uh, for storing wealth. And like for me myself, I don't use it as such, but if there is a conference, I tend to load it up with a few tenors for payment of a beers or Bitcoin payments like over Lightning. And that I wouldn't put a private key on it anymore. No. But back then there was no Lightning network, and we had it like a different approach basically to using it. In the cards themselves, you can use the cards in the closed loop payment system. Like imagine Disneyland would create their own shitcoin. Then you have the Mickey Mouse dollar, and you can store it on a card, or you can store it on the implant or any other NFC tag, wristband, or anything that fits within the marketing or the branding of the client. They can use that, and you can use that technology to use cryptocurrencies in a closed loop system, basically. So yeah, this I think is far better application for the technology than just using it for point of sale payment with Bitcoin. I think it's great. It works with Lightning, but it will take a while for it to become mainstream, I guess.
I think it's fascinating that you have had that chip under your skin for about 9 years and it did not become obsolete, as in the same technology found different use cases. It went from a Bitcoin storage to a Lightning wallet, and you were able to program it to do something else.
Correct. It's you can rewrite them like 100,000 times before they become obsolete, and you can read them unlimited amount of times for up to say 10 years of after writing it. So if you don't write to it too often, at least less than 100,000 times in your lifetime, um, and at the same time, you can just like add new applications to it, or URL or a URI. I could put my Nostr private key on it. I just need to have a client that will read the NFC. But that would be nice, you know. So if you want to communicate with somebody, you just scan it, and there's your Nostr, or your Nostr npub, or another way. Yeah, it's flexible. It's very open technology, and it's not very rocket sciencey or anything, but and it's accessible. Back then it was only Android, but now it seems that Apple is finally also picking up on it. We've had it in the ATMs for years. We see it's primarily used as an option to brand wallets for clients, that they can have, like our operators, they can have a branded card wallet. So people who want a card wallet, they can dispense one from the machine. So things are like that, I think, are nice. Our clients want that, so then we do that.
Yeah, I think this is the perfect segue into ATMs. You are the first Bitcoin human cyborg, and you're also the marketer for ATMs made by GeneralBytes. What is the history of this company? Because I see that you have lots of models, and when I walk into a shopping mall, it's very likely that the Bitcoin ATM in there is going to be one that's made by your company.
It started out as a project by Karol Kijowski. He's the founder of the company. He started with a Kickstarter project where they basically had an Android hardware and a good industrial touchscreen. And then he thought, you know what, I can make them into Bitcoin ATMs. So this is how he basically got started with the ATMs. And one of the very first models that came out of the factory, I purchased at the time. And I thought it was like cool product. And I think there's this there's a market for that. And gradually we kept soliciting feedback from our clients. Karel was particularly keen on that. And I think that's really good because everything they asked for, we created. So, first we only had one way, then we became one way and two ways, like buy and sell operations. And then software improved where we thought you can have a different fee for buy and sell operations. And some of our clients wanted a larger model with more impressive design. So we created a larger model. Some wanted a compact model. And the idea is that they all tie together within your same software environment. So managing them should be relatively easy, not depending on which model you selected. Also, every ATM from the range of models or conversion kits. It's not just our own ATMs. We also provide conversion kits for various manufacturers. But the idea is that you can tie them all together and then manage them from your central operators console. So this is, I think, helped. We're basically the DJ. We manufacture the ATMs. We write the software. We support our customers, and feature requests they can send to us and we'll make it for them. It's that's basically how the company grew, and we kept adding features, and then became busy. Then we had production problems, so we opened another factory, and then we needed more people for development. So gradually we grew from 4 people to just over 60 people right now. Yeah.
Right. So I guess it would be useful to get into analyzing the various types of ATMs that you're selling and the parts of the world where they are popular. But before that, the natural question is, why should anyone use an ATM today when there's such a wide access to exchanges and to banking, and people can get, usually, their Bitcoin for a cheaper price on some online exchange as opposed to an ATM?
Correct, but there's a large part of the world where access to a bank account just isn't that convenient. Many countries around the world, their banking system isn't very good. If you're just getting into Bitcoin, it can be a bit daunting too. So if you have a single place in your area where you can just put some cash in, I think it's just the most convenient, easy way to purchase cash. You can, within 30 seconds, you can purchase Bitcoin. Within 15 minutes, you can sell it because, it probably requires a confirmation on the blockchain before it will hand out your cash. So I think there's always a market for that. And we're a bit spoiled in Europe, I think, with banking. The SEPA and the IBAN numbers. It's so standardized right now that we can zap money over in no time to somebody in another European country. But in large parts of the world, they're still using PayPal. So then I think it makes sense to have a Bitcoin ATM. Because getting money in and out of exchanges is going to usually be more difficult in countries where the banking system isn't as efficient. I think for a long time there will be demand for the on and off ramp to on and off to fiat, just before we have the whole hyper Bitcoinization. In addition to that, clients have asked us to make electronic card payments an option on the system. So you can see in the background, why is it there? That's like a PCI compliant card reader that operators can use should they want it, because many operators are not using it. They work with cash. This is something they can configure when they order their machine. They configure their own machine. So just the pricing is widely varying depending on what type of configuration they create. I think we know 2 ATM operators are the same. So why should the hardware be monolithic and the same? So that's why we have many different options for configuring. And I think having that can help our clients to adjust the prices for depending on their location. So if they have a location where they primarily sell, or another location where they primarily buy, or maybe a really busy location where they expect a lot of buy and sell traffic, they can anticipate that and order a machine that's specifically optimized for that location. And this, I think, is what sets us apart from many other brands.
Yeah, I think in the case of European and North American countries, and maybe also part of Asia, maybe that there is the convenience of banking. But in recent years, the banks have waged war against Bitcoin. And if you have transactions related to some Bitcoin exchange in your account, they're likely to shut down your account. So to prevent this situation from happening, to be able to still have a bank account, it's probably for the better to use cash when you purchase your Bitcoin and go to your local ATM. At least that's the way that I perceive it.
Correct. What you see a lot is that when like the money transfers like Western Union are notorious for charging high fees, and especially to countries where it's unbanked, where fiat cash money is important. But it also means that the banking system is lacking, especially for those countries. There's a lot of people sending money back to home country, and while they're normally forced to use an expensive service like Western Union money transfer, they can opt to buy a stable coin on an ATM and then send it over at a fraction of the cost. If they want to save a little, they buy Bitcoin, so I think there's a market for it, and as long as there's a market, we'll keep producing for that market.
Yeah, I think that your ATMs are pretty cool. The prices range from $3,000 for the BATM2 up to about 9,000 if you get all the features on BATM4.
Correct. And there's also the Ultra, which we launched last year. It's a two-way ATM like the BATM4 and the BATM3, but it's ultra compact like the BATM2. So we found that sometimes where floor space is at a premium, some of our clients still want to have both buy and sell. So it uses like a different technology to give those features in a very small footprint package. So that's and I think there's almost 10k. So there's a wide variety. People can leave features off if they don't need it, or they can add other features in the product configuration, and the price will update automatically. So as I said, there's no two clients the same, so two clients shouldn't be using the exact same machine configuration either, because that would make it a not good machine. I think I said it correctly. Yeah.
Are you concerned that your friends, neighbors, or KYC exchange might know how much Bitcoin you own? It is time to take your financial privacy seriously with Wasabi Wallet, a free and open source wallet solution which makes use of mega coin joins to mix your coins with those of hundreds of other strangers. Thanks to the groundbreaking Wabi Sabi engine, your coins get divided in smaller, untraceable units, which grant you great anonymity for both hodling and spending. Download Wasabi Wallet 2.0 today at wasabiwallet.io and take advantage of the mega coin joins. It's free and it's open source, so don't trust, verify. CryptoSteel are innovators in Bitcoin cold storage. Back in 2013, they launched the CryptoSteel cassette, which made it easy to back up your seed phrase, passphrase, or any other form of private key on the sturdy metal which resists water, fire, and earthquakes. Today, CryptoSteel offers the Motherload, an all-in-one box which endows you with everything you need to become financially sovereign. Inside of the motherload, you get a CryptoSteel capsule and a hardware wallet of your choice. All CryptoSteel products are engineered and manufactured in Poland. Order your CryptoSteel metal backup system today on cryptosteel.com and use promo code BTCTKVR at checkout for a 10% discount on your first order. CryptoSteel, secure your wallet seed phrase. Are you a writer, photographer, musician, or video creator who's trying to generate some revenue? Bumby is the Bitcoin way to monetize your content. It's more censorship resistant than any other platform of its kind, with a low and flat one-time fee of 10%. Bumby is as easy to use as any social media mobile application. Sign up today at Bumby.com and subscribe for free to the Bitcoin Takeover account to get access to some time-exclusive content. If you are monetizing your creativity, why not get paid in Bitcoin for it? Bumby.com, the Bitcoin way to monetize your content. Shopping with your Bitcoin on the internet is easy. ShopInBit is Europe's biggest Bitcoin store with over 800,000 products, ranging from Bitcoin books, toothpaste, mobile phones, computers, and watches. This month, I bought a Nintendo Game & Watch console with the classic Legend of Zelda, and it arrived in only 5 working days. And if you can't find what you're looking for, ShopInBit has got you covered. Their concierge service will get you anything and ship it worldwide. Additionally, they also have a travel hacking service that can get you the best deals on all things travel, flights, hotels, and more, for business and for vacations. Bitcoin Takeover listeners get a nice discount, of course. Use code BTCTKVR on your first order for a one-time €5 discount. For more details, go to shopinbit.com. ShopInBit, Europe's biggest Bitcoin store. Right, Martin. So right now I'm looking at the offering of Bitcoin ATMs that I can find on GeneralBytes.com. And I can see that there are 5 different types of ATMs that you can order. There's BATM2, BA2M2 Pro, BA2M2 Ultra, and BATM3 and BATM4. What's really the difference between all these, and why is it necessary to have 5 different models of ATMs?
Well, every one of our clients is different, depending on where your office is. Some machines might have like buy and sell directions. Others are sufficient to just have the sort of buy Bitcoin feature. So for those ATM clients, a simple machine would do. So a BATM2 is a one-way machine. BATM3, BATM4, and the Mega conversion kit for a universal kiosk machine allows you to convert an existing Bitcoin ATM to a universal kiosk to a GeneralBytes kiosk with just a simple conversion kit. So the prices for those start at $300, so $395, which is a really lowest entry level price to get going with Bitcoin ATMs. And you can just source an existing universal kiosk machine, and you can just build that in, and it usually takes 20 minutes. So that's the cheapest way to get going. From our own range of ATMs, we've got the BATM2 series, the BATM2 Ultra series, the BATM3 and the BATM4. And the difference there is primarily the form factor. And the software is very similar. So the whole process and the verification process is similar, but there's a difference in capabilities. The larger machines have two-way functionalities. Others, like the BATM2 Ultra, offer everything in a high speed, in a compact form factor. This is something, especially for expensive locations where floor space comes at a premium. Then an ultra compact machine makes perfect sense. If it's something like, needs to attract eyeballs, the BATM4 is very popular. It's got like a neon bezel, like the BATM3.
It's also the one behind you, right?
That's the BATM4, yes, correct. It's the first machine we offer with the option of having a PCI compliant card reader and processor. So this way, some of our operators can change into a cashless ATM where they basically sell you Bitcoin using your credit card, or you can like sell some of your Bitcoin and then get cash out. So it's a very flexible machine in that respect. It also has like a large screen, so there's with a screen saver option that's available on all the machines. You can display your branding for your company. So you can have like, Bitcoin takeover cover or an NFT or something like a video, something that explains Bitcoin or maybe explains your brand as an ATM operator. So that's where the big difference is. The difference in size really comes down to the fact that, for a two-way buy and sell ATM, you will need more space for all the equipment in it. The shape of the box, that really depends on where the operator wants to place their machines. There's also a large distinction in the configurations, because if you have like one of the base configurations, you go online, you configure it, and you can make it so that it will, like, maybe you just work as a one-way, or maybe you want to have a cash recycler instead of a dispenser. So there's different technologies that some operators prefer, and depending on how far away is the ATM from their office, how easy it is to service. And in one of your earlier mentioned, I think it was before the show, you said it's sometimes difficult for Bitcoin companies to make the cash deposits or to even establish banking records. For this, in the US at least, there's many companies doing basically money transport. So those money transport companies will require that you have a certain degree of locks. It usually means that, the ATMs come equipped with a code lock with an audit trail. That means that if somebody from a money transport company will empty the machine for you or refill it, their code will automatically be logged. So that way you have like a track record of who serviced the machine. And we find that clients they are able to actually grow their network to hundreds, if not thousands, of machines. So this is this is, I think, is the key to running a successful Bitcoin ATM network, is to get the machines that are exactly to your configuration. Sometimes you can add later features at a later stage by visiting the machine location, but ideally you order the machine in the configuration you need. Get a grip on the banking issues. If you can find a company that will do cash money transport for you, that usually means that you can focus on growing the business. So yes, our very first model didn't have all those fancy features. That was 2014. But over the years, this is our 10th year that we've been in operation. Over the past 10 years, a lot of things changed, yes, in a way to make it more scalable and basically better product.
Right, so newbie question, you mentioned something about the difference between dispensing and recycling banknotes. What's the difference?
Well, with a dispenser, you have with a dispenser and an acceptor, you have two boxes. One is for the cash that's coming in, and the second box you fill with fresh cash, like 20s and 50s, that's for outgoing. So the benefit of using a separate dispenser and a separate acceptor is that for dispensing, you go you can dispense fast. It's a reliable process that is fast. It's good for high volume locations. But if it's empty, or as soon as it's empty, it can no longer dispense cash. So to help reduce the number of cash calls our ATM operators have to make, you can opt in many models for a recycler, cash recycler, instead of a dispenser. And the cash recycler is basically it's the two combined, the acceptor and dispenser combined, where you say you can recycle your 20 euro and your 50 euro bills. Then the acceptor, the recycler, will accept all the cash put in, except it will recycle the 20s and the 50s, and it will keep them in a separate storage for dispensing them at a later stage, while all the other bills, they go directly into the acceptor box. So the recycler is therefore more flexible. It lowers the number of cash calls, but with say up to 50 or even more percent. And in a business where growth is everything, it helps having fewer cash calls, because that means you can have more machines. So it's definitely it's definitely beneficial, but the drawback is it's usually a little bit slower than a cash dispenser, and there is also less capacity in the dispensing and in the recycler than there is in a dispenser. So for high volume locations, you might want to say, I will have a machine with a dispenser for fast issuing of bills, but at the same time also use a recycler, so that you also have a steady supply of bills coming in from other clients that you can reuse, which will also lower the number of visits you have to make to the machine. So it is I think the trick is, I always tell people that start with Bitcoin ATMs, like, you're not running a crypto business, you're running a cash-based business, which is not, of course, 100% true, because of the ATM or the card terminals that are now available for the BATM4. But it is something that is very important to the business, is managing the cash, either getting it to the bank yourself, if you have a good banking relationship, using a third party with an audited trail on the log, or having it run solely through a recycling unit. So this is it's not no two locations or no two ATM operators are the same. So this is why I think everybody needs their perfect configuration.
Yeah, so let's say that I want to take an ATM to a local bar. Do I just buy one from you and then deal with the local regulations or whatever? Or do you require some sort of proof that I'm allowed to run that ATM?
No, you have to prove yourself that you're allowed to run the ATM. But yeah, Vlad, that's a very, very good question. I think the buying the ATM is, in my opinion, the last step in such a venture. You'd first look at what are the regulations. Do you need to register as a money transmitter, or maybe if you're selling from your own wallet, if you configure it like that, then yes, you can bypass maybe a lot of the regulations. Setting limits, there might not be limits set on the sale and buying of cryptocurrencies, but in many cases there are limits per country on how much is a single entity allowed to purchase in a single day. Those regulations are important. Our software has like many tweaks and settings, which you can use to create your own crypto settings, your own AML KYC limits, requirements for verification checks. So yes, that is important. And this next step is to look for ATM suppliers that have software that allows you to set all these requirements, because not all of them do, or not all of them do so in a way that the regulator is happy about it. So that's an important part of the process. But once you've selected your supplier, then yes, you get your first machine. You probably leave it in the office. You start configuring it. You set up your wallets, your exchanges, the limits on the machine, maybe requirements for checking identity of the user. Maybe the regulator said you have to check incoming Bitcoin for bad guys, or using a third-party tool like CipherTrace or chain analysis. There's just many different requirements, especially the European market. There's many different requirements that are imposed on a per country basis. This also has caused us to like totally rewrite the AML KYC part like a few years ago to accommodate all these changes. But yeah, it can be a bit daunting at first, but once you like have run your machine for like a month or so and you played around with it on the office, you created your templates, your crypto settings, your customization, of course, screensaver, everything, maybe added a really nice branding to it, then yes, then you feel comfortable with it, then you can place the first machine at your location. And we usually see clients, they order one machine, maybe two machines, maybe order a conversion kit because they were either using or they managed to get an old ATM from elsewhere and want to turn it into a Bitcoin ATM. So then, and once they're comfortable with that, we usually gradually see more orders coming in. It's when we started, it was like a lot of small low number of machine type of networks and setups. And what we've seen over the past 5 years is that there's more consolidation in the market. People no longer place one machine. They start maybe with 10 machines and they try to grow to thousands of machines in a few years' time. And they're basically really building the brand on the ATMs. It makes sense because fixed costs like server costs, support people, staff, marketing, branding for your ATM brand, those costs are fixed. So if you've done it for one machine or 10 machines, then it doesn't cost any more to do that for like 500 machines. And at the same time, on Bitcoin exchanges, you're in totally different pricing tiers. So you probably get a cheaper deal on the exchange fees and everything. So that also helps make the business more sustainable. Did that answer your question, or am I totally bambling off in a new direction again?
Just partially, but to get it back to the practical level, I remember in 2019 when I went to room 77 in Berlin, that they had this non-KYC ATM in the back of the bar.
Yes, this is why was it Georg? Well, Jörg, his name, the owner. I met him in Prague on the HTTP, and then he looked at the machine and said, "Yeah, one of those machines I had, and it made me end up in a police cell or something like that." So yeah, if in non-AML KYC, it's a cyberpunk utopia, and I think that because the ATMs are a very visible part of the infrastructure of the Bitcoin network. So they're also the ones that get hammered by regulators as being the first. So this is something you would not be able to run that same machine anymore. In anywhere in most European countries, but also in the Americas, without doing any check on the phone number or something, or PIN or an email address, or maybe there's other regulations, but there has to be non-AML KYC is difficult nowadays with all the regulations. So the machines have to be compliant. Yeah.
I also have a friend who bought Bitcoin from an ATM, and he bought about 20 euros worth, and he did not have to register with a phone number or anything.
Correct. For many countries have an exception for lower amounts of transactions, like for 20 or 50, that should be fine. But if it's over 100 or more, then it needs to be checked. There's also limits on, for example, the amount of cash you can use in a single transaction. I know in the Netherlands that is the case, where you can no longer use cash to pay for a transaction above a certain amount anonymously. But if you go through AML KYC and you maybe check with your ID, then that is lifted and it can be a far higher transaction. So the AML KYC laws are complicated. everywhere in the world, and the software requires you to set limits, but it's a policy you basically make for your machine or for a group of machines or for your entire network. So you can have different AML KYC policies per group of machines. So if you, as an operator, work in several countries, you can have these different policies per country without any extra difficult things.
Yeah, usually ATMs are regarded as a more private way to purchase Bitcoin. And in this case, or at least in most cases, private means that you don't go through a bank. But
Correct.
ATMs at the same time have security cameras that are part of the machine. And you get recorded while you do the transaction. So are they really private?
Well, of course, the machine, to prevent abuse, the machines will have to basically defend themselves against bad actors, because if an ATM operator is found that to be like non-compliant and have like a lot of bad actors on the network, this becomes also a problem for the network. So on the other hand, if you identify yourself to an ATM operator and that who stores the information for as long as you use the machine, or if you're submitting your AML KYC information to a big bank, I think there's a big difference there. So yeah, we strive to have the infrastructure behind Bitcoin should reflect the infrastructure of society in a way. We have to, if we do AML KYC checks, they have to be like for in your own community. And while if you're with a big bank, you do an AML KYC check, then you're in all the systems. So there's this big tech is storing everything, but this is why the idea behind the ATMs is to decentralize it, or not decentralize. It's basically distributed, because one ATM operator will have one point where he will manage his ATMs, his fleet management, and while at the same time there will be many operators. So it's not decentralized like as the Bitcoin network where every node connects to every node, but it's more like distributed with many different operators. I think this is important. It's not a single, like instance. It's not one company. It's basically like a hydra.
Yeah, makes sense. Another question that I got concerns the fact that if you observe where most Bitcoin ATMs can be found, they're usually in shopping malls. And why do you think this happens? Why is the shopping mall the place where you usually find the Bitcoin ATM?
I think this has to do a bit with the way the vending industry is working. They usually have like a business with a vending machine business with a lot of different locations, and the value of the business is having all those locations. And some of those locations are in malls, in supermarkets, or but hotel lobbies. But basically, those vending machine locations is where companies place them. We saw that during the pandemic and with the lockdown and all the malls closed, these were not, while they are usually very popular locations like airports and malls, people were not going there because the pandemic was there. So what happened instead is that ATM operators got creative and they placed them at essential locations like gas stations and stuff. And that I think is also very popular locations, like gas stations. Even if there's a zombie apocalypse, you will need gas for your car. So yeah, gas stations are, I think, the best locations.
Yeah, makes sense. I wanted to ask you also about the competition. I met Mike Dupree, I think, from EasyBit, and he told me that he sold some ATMs in El Salvador. What's the difference between EasyBit and GeneralBytes?
I know Mike from way back in 2014, and I don't know the EasyBit product. I've never worked with the EasyBit product. In that respect, I can't really comment on that. We see market share is divided by several players. The largest globally is Genesis Coin. They recently sold a company. It's now Bitstop. One of the operators bought a company. Then the second largest market share is GeneralBytes. We don't really operate machines ourselves. So we do have a company where we operate our own machines, but that's just to test how our software is functioning. The clients we have, they're really into running the machines. I don't know if that is with Mike, if that's the same. So it's interesting. I'd love to get a demo someday. But we also have machines in El Salvador. I think they run about 60 or so of the machines in El Salvador. El Salvador is primarily run by Athena. Athena is already like famous from back in the days, from the early days in Bitcoin ATMs in the US. But this is a separate branch that helps El Salvador with their setup. I think it's cool. I think the more choice there is for ATM operators or people, it's good for innovation, in my opinion. Like more is better.
Yeah, you know, it also eliminates the single point of failure issue, and it supplies for larger demands when maybe that you don't have enough units to ship to a country when there's a lot of demand. I can think of Argentina right now or Turkey. They have hyperinflation, or maybe not hyper, but 90% plus. So there is going to be a lot more demand for Bitcoin, and people are going to want to buy with their cash. So I can see that being a booming market. So if you don't have enough machines with your company, it's useful that somebody else also makes them.
Oh yes, it's but like we also have the like conversion kits. So should, for example, the production be delayed on certain models, that's no longer the case. It was 5 years ago. It was sometimes difficult to scale, but nowadays we can ship fast. But should somebody like an entire country want to go online, they can also opt for conversion kits. So their existing ATMs can be retrofitted. And then basically get a little upgrade, and then they become a Bitcoin ATM. So that's especially if it's a universal kiosk, then that's easy. The RoboCoin machines, when the RoboCoin company stopped operating, we helped the operators at the time by converting them to the GeneralBytes OS. This was funny because if you look at the statistics of all the ATMs online, then the very, very first machine online is listed as a GeneralBytes machine, but that's not the case. It used to be a RoboCoin machine that got a live extension with the GeneralBytes software. So yeah, we're basically very flexible with that. And if people have specific requirements for a specific type of ATM, and they have a machine that they can help, they can supply us, then we can probably make it work and create a conversion kit for that type and model too. We've done it three times now. Like one time the RoboCoin kit, the MD Moderna, and I think that's no longer. It wasn't a very popular model, but we did create a kit, and then the universal kiosk. It's easy way and a relatively inexpensive way to get started with ATMs, but it's also a good way to scale your operations. Should you want to get a lot of machines online fast, is to just source the hardware from whatever you can find, wherever you can find it, and then just convert them software, because it is usually easier to have everything in one fleet management. So having different platforms on which you run your business, that can be it adds extra work on it, which you don't want, because you want to focus on the business, not on doing the business.
Yeah, recently I read an article, and I'm looking at it right now, and it presents the top 10 countries with most Bitcoin ATMs. Unsurprisingly, most of them are in the United States, about 33,000. And the second one is Canada, and it makes sense. There's been a lot of Bitcoin action in there since the early days with 2000. There's still a gap there, a lot more in the United States. But then we get into the other parts of the world, right? And we're going to see that the third one is Spain with 272. The fourth one is Australia with 251. The fifth one is El Salvador. No, sorry, I read. The fifth one is Poland with 225. The sixth one is El Salvador with 212. And then you have Switzerland, Romania, Hong Kong, and Austria. And that makes you wonder, why is it like this? I don't see very developed countries. I don't see Germany on this list. I don't see the United Kingdom.
Germany is a case in itself. There are machines in Germany, but the regulations in Germany were very strict from the very beginning. Already years ago, the German regulator ruled that Bitcoin is a financial product, is a private financial product, but is a financial product. So anything you do with Bitcoin, you have to get approval from BaFin, which is the regulator in Germany. And they basically would say no to everyone. So it boils down to this. If you want to operate Bitcoin ATMs in Germany, you have to strike an alliance with a bank. So it's really complex in getting started. This also shows in the numbers, but we do have a client, Courant. They're originally from Austria, but they operate in a partnership, operate ATMs in Germany. But the fact that it's so difficult to get started is also the reason why you might see lower numbers in certain countries. In other cases, you see one country really pops the list. What we find there is usually we have a very, very business savvy ATM operator or client there who has managed to corner the market, have all the nice locations, or in other, how do I say it, in other ways is successful in placing the machines. It can also be that, like, there's many people from abroad working in a certain country, then there's more demand for alternatives to Western Union money transfer and a similar company. So those are all driving forces behind the number of machines that are available in a certain country. Sometimes you see that a country all of a sudden loses large numbers of machines. This is usually when there is a new requirement or licensing introduced, and it takes some time for those businesses to become compliant and maybe get somebody to pick up the phone and a compliancy officer or set AML KYC limits so they're back to being compliant and they can operate their business again. So it usually explains it. It's no real. It can also be an indicator of how popular crypto is in a certain country or Bitcoin, because like 99% of all the transactions made on Bitcoin ATMs are Bitcoin, not the rest. But that's so. There's many different reasons why one would that define the number of machines that are in operation. Yeah.
I was really surprised to see that my country, Romania, is the 8th in this ranking, meaning that we are on par with Switzerland and Hong Kong, and even slightly below El Salvador, which has Bitcoin as a legal tender. And that made me wonder what's going on here, because I don't know too many Bitcoiners.
I think you tweeted that too, and I thought about it, but I think it's because there's many very tech savvy individuals in Romania, and there is like a curiosity that where people get in. Maybe it's the big Bitcoin scene that's large, or there's also, I think, Bitcoin Romania also has it used to be another operator. They got taken over. They started growing, and they basically really started growing their business. This, I think, in Bitcoin in Romania, it's down to one or two operators basically running the entire country. So, yeah, it's exciting to see. I wonder how often they're used. Is Bitcoin popular in Romania, or is it just with tech savvy individuals? It's interesting.
I walk by a Bitcoin ATM every time I go to the mall. Usually it's GeneralBytes, but I never see anyone using it.
Oh, yeah, but you only need one person using it. Maybe that's not a good location. It is in a mall, but you think, is it in a large city, or is it a smaller mid-sized city, or because that usually also happens to make a difference. Larger cities and busy locations are usually the ones that get the best business.
Yeah,
And
it's the capital city, so I don't think that's an issue.
yeah, maybe it's because they can buy and sell Bitcoin, buy their Bitcoin in 30 seconds. So you'd have to maybe camp out, have a little picnic there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they're gonna like it or they're gonna use the ATM if someone is doing a picnic nearby.
Constantly offering their help. Do you want to know anything about it? Let me help you. Yeah, that's. But yeah, we see usage usually varies widely per location. So if a location is not a good location, it's handy to have like another location where you can place it. But this is something to consider, especially when finding new locations. Is whether is this a location worth investing in or not, and also have a way out that in case the location doesn't do well, that you can get yourself out of a rental contract, or that you can get yourself out of the deal. Another strategy that some operators use is to just blanket a country or the state or the city with different Bitcoin ATMs, basically making sure that there's always one within 15 minutes walking distance. And that way they will gradually know which neighborhoods will have more business and which ones are like, well, it's there, but it's not used as much. So yeah, that's a different strategy to run the ATM business. For many of our clients, in the past, people would buy one or two machines. Now they purchase entire containers. So for them, it's not an issue of placing one at a location that might not be as busy as another location. So this, I think, is yeah, it basically boils down to like a strategy. Maybe the location isn't that busy or nobody is using it there, but the owner of the operator of the machines also has a deal with other locations run by the same location owner. So that's, yeah, it's not always easy to see, but the operators see the revenue in their dashboard, so they can see that a location is not that busy. Maybe it's time to move it to another location once the lease is up.
Yeah, so potentially stupid question, but where do ATMs get their Bitcoin from?
That is no such thing as a stupid question, Vlad. I think that's a very good question. Like, because it also defines how are you dealing with regulators? If, for example, you can set the ATM to purchase your coins directly on an exchange from your fiat balance and send it from the exchange. That in many American states would make you a money transmitter and would require you to register as a money transmitter. It causes all these regulations. In other US states, for example, you can sell Bitcoin from your own wallet, like your Bitcoin wallet, and then sell them to people using your ATM. And because you're selling them from your own wallet, you are not a money transmitter. The fact that you do a buyback on the exchange for the exact same amount that the user has just entered into the machine, that, yes, doesn't make you a money transmitter. You're not sending the coins from the exchange to the client, but you're sending them from your own wallet in that case. So depending on how you want to configure it, this is something to keep in mind. Not just how you want to configure it, but also what do regulators say. Ideally, I would say sell from your own wallet, do a buyback on the exchange, leave it on the exchange, and maybe once every time, when the balance is low of your hot wallet, make a transfer to the hot wallet from the exchange. This reduces risk because you have fewer funds in your hot wallet, and at the same time will prevent you from being stung when there's lots of volatility in the market, because even after 10 years, volatility is Bitcoin's friend.
Okay, Martin. So I have a question from a podcast listener whose name is Florin, and he wants to know, can the government ban ATMs and how can you mitigate this situation? And there are lots of other questions that diverge from this one. So let's start with this.
Perfect. Yeah, I think this is a valid question. Governments can ban the use of ATMs, but usually they have to provide a reason for banning it. One of their main concerns at the time was that there was a risk of bad actors using an ATM network. So what we're seeing now is that many governments require much more stricter AML KYC measures to be enabled on those ATMs. You know, sometimes people even have to register themselves with a mobile phone or even with their with a facial or like a picture. So there is a constant pressure from regulators on the ATMs. I think if they ask for something else, we'll just make the software compliant again, and then our clients will be able to operate there. So as long as people are willing to operate them, we will keep adjusting the software and make it compliant.
Yeah, but what's the worst that can happen to a Bitcoin ATM? Because I guess there are some security measures in place. I guess people can break them and steal the cash. There's no way for them to steal Bitcoin, I guess. But
Well,
I still see that you have. So the latest tweet from GeneralBytes is about a security incident from March 17th and the 18th. And by looking at the description of the incident, it says that it's of the highest severity. So
absolutely. It is.
I'm not sure what this means. Please tell me.
Well, as the software basically that's running the ATMs is constantly updated. So it's really important to constantly have the latest version of the ATM software running on it. People say, yes, you can steal the cash, but you cannot get the Bitcoin out of the machine. But if there's a hacker or there's a compromise or a vulnerability has been found, it's really important to protect your network and then shut down the ATMs and wait until a patch is released. So we occasionally, it's the second time that we have an issue where operators really have to immediately shut down their machines and take action. We post it on our website. We post it on our social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, and like our news site on the website itself, urging customers to upgrade their software. They can go to generalbytes.com/patch, and then they can upgrade their software to the latest patch level. This is absolutely important. In our case, it was an attacker that used a remote code execution or a code execution vulnerability that was present for almost 2 years, even though we regularly get our software audited by third parties, which is like, standard procedure. But we do take security very serious. It does happen at times that something bad happens. So this is one of those days where people will have to run their own server and hide the software basically behind the VPN, so that only authorized staff will be able to use the commands, the crypto application server, and that no unauthorized people are able to connect to that server from the internet. We are currently moving all of our customers to their own self-hosted instances, and then secure that with VPN. So if you know of any people running Bitcoin ATMs from GeneralBytes, then do the community a favor and tell them they have to update their software. If they don't know how, support is there to help them. We've been answering tickets basically non-stop since this happened. So this happens on Friday. It always happens on a Friday, but we're working non-stop, and we're still looking at the damage caused by this attack. We have a questionnaire and a survey running. We're working with law enforcement authorities to pinpoint the attacker. So yeah, this is a developing story, but it shows once more that always keep your software up to date, and even if there's the latest version and there is a risk of exploits, then make sure that you limit risk by reducing the amount you have in your hot wallets, and make sure that it's difficult or impossible to access the cold storage. If there's customers that have questions about this incident, we really recommend them to read the security bulletin. Because step-by-step information. Our support staff is handling this by having constantly available to help people migrate and set up VPN connection and secure their systems properly. But yes, Vlad, this is sometimes you're in the news for all the wrong reasons, and this is one of those days. But the only thing we can do is be transparent about it, do a proper investigation, fix the software. There's a patch out, so go to generalbytes.com/patch if you're running Bitcoin ATMs, and upgrade to the latest patch level. That should really get back online as soon as possible, because I think it's an important part of the Bitcoin ecosystem. It is one of the many available on and off ramps, but it's also an easy way for people to get introduced to cryptocurrencies. So I think for growth of Bitcoin, it's really important that we keep the machines. So everybody update your software. Support is there to help if you need help. If you want to have like advice on risk management, do contact. The support is there. So always update your software. And keep an eye on the security bulletins. We have security bulletins on Telegram that are faster usually than Twitter and less noise. It's very high signal. If there's a message posted on there, follow up on it if you're running a Bitcoin ATM network.
Yes, I see that in the report you have a way for individual ATM operators to verify if their servers were breached.
Correct.
And there's an entire procedure that you must follow. And there's also a list of IP addresses that was used by the attackers. There are 3 of them here.
As soon as we have more on that, we will update the original article with new IPs. We've identified many of the addresses used in this hack. And added those to all scanners, notified law enforcement. Individually, we ask operators to also let us know via the survey how much, if there are any losses, and if so, how much. This is going to be taken into the investigation on what happened. So, to update, very important. Upgrade with this version, latest version.
Yeah, I just checked. So, are you aware of what the losses are? I checked the Bitcoin address that's listed here that was used by the attack. And it seems like there were 56.
Correct. Bitcoin. It's a large amount. We've sold almost over 15,000 machines globally. So you can imagine the scale of such an incident. This is definitely a lot of money. They even took Dogecoin from some of the operators. I mean, Dogecoin, but
yeah, I know. Weird.
But let me just check. We just released a patch which fixed most of the VPN issues some of our clients were having. And we are minimizing the amount of database information that's actually stored in the database. So that and we're currently migrating our clients to self-hosted instances that are behind a VPN, so it will secure their servers more. It's really important to this is as our prime priority now. At the same time, we're collecting log files, so we ask all our operators to get in touch with us. Any information they can provide might help us in identifying the attacker here.
Are you aware if this was only from a specific geographical region, or did this concern some sort of cloud servers and the attackers were able to take funds from multiple locations?
What happened here is I think that the attacker scanned, in this case, a digital ocean range of IP addresses for a certain port. And that was how they found the machines, basically. Some of our clients, they use a DigitalOcean as their cloud provider, so having a certain port open on an IP in that range often meant it was a GeneralBytes server. So by securing these behind the VPN, these ports will not show as available again. They're no longer accessible. So this is the first step. At the same time, we're working on reducing the amount that's stored actually on the server, and that there's more like stored elsewhere. So if at the same, we're also looking for new like support tech security stuff. If you have a history where you're good with auditing software or looking software, they will definitely want to hear from you. So we will be beefing up the security department at GeneralBytes at the same time. It's not something we want to happen ever again, to be honest.
It's a strange coincidence. We set up this interview on Thursday, and then on Friday this happened, and they're like, maybe that they're gonna postpone the interview. Maybe they don't want to talk right now, but you seemed excited to talk.
Vlad, it's very important to be transparent about these things, so it's also in the best interest of our ATM operators that they fix it fast. They need to change all the keys, and basically it's a lot of work, and they need to set up their own server, while many of them used our cloud service. But we can only succeed, I think, in the long run by decentralizing the network or distributing, making the network behind the Bitcoin ATMs reflect more the way our society is structured, and running your own server is part of that. And we've been like, we've been in like running this for like 10 years now. We've been making the software. So many of the security vulnerabilities are out there, but sometimes there's stuff that's found, and a good hacker would report it and would collect their bounty. A bad hacker tries to wreak havoc and destroy stuff. So yeah, will always be cat and mouse game. So this is why it's so important to run the latest software, keep in touch with the GeneralBytes operators channel for updates, and that way we limit risk and we limit exposure. It's it makes no sense in trying to hide it or not answering questions. I think transparency and honesty about what's going on is more important than anything else, really.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, I'm looking at your website right now, and you're not just a hardware company. You're not only selling ATMs, you're also providing software for ATMs. And I can see that you have two products that are part of your portfolio, and those are whalebooks.com and CAS Software. What are these?
Whalebooks, like we found that like all the ATMs, they run Bitcoin ATM software, the BATM software, and they connect to CAS, the crypto application server. And CAS is basically it's the fleet management software that you use to manage your ATMs. So if that's 2 ATMs or 1 or 2 ATMs up to maybe 1,000 ATMs, that software is basically the brains behind the ATM. At the same time, we found that even though the fleet management software allows operators to adjust settings and get reports on the ATM, they needed more in-depth information about the financial health of their crypto company. So imagine, I don't use Binance, but people who use Binance, they can buy Bitcoin with a stable coin or euros or dollars. And then at the same time, when they make a trade, they will pay in Binance coin. So you get where this is going. This is really complicated to keep track of the accounting of your cryptocurrency business as well. So for that, we needed something more like a tool that will make this all visible and provides operators with financial health reports, tax reports, accounting, like assets, realized profits, unrealized profits, all these type of more like money related questions that are not just for ATM operators. I mean, anybody who trades Bitcoin and or other cryptocurrencies will at one point need to have a proper overview of their portfolio, and this basically is whale books. We've been developing that for a couple of years now, and one of the main reasons. One of the main reasons many of our operators use it is that they can create an API key inside their fleet management software, CAS, and then send their data to their instance of whale books, where they can then connect all their exchanges together. They connect all their wallets together to create one overview of the financial health of their Bitcoin or cryptocurrency business. And this I think it was too nice and too much work for a software product to just keep for using on ATMs, because many people we know in the community, they need a proper way to manage their accounting, basically, for crypto, and regular accounting packages, they don't get it. Well, except for Alameda, because FTX, they were using QuickBooks, which is like exceptional. But whale books it is, and it's a separate company, a separate spin-off. It eventually became part of GeneralBytes, because we were basically like doing most of the development for it. There are plans to open source it. I think like it would be good for such a product to be open source, but we're looking for a good partner to do this with. If any of the viewers here is listening, but it will probably be open source in the future. But we want it to be like perfect before we release it to the public.
Okay, what about CAS?
CS it comes for free, or I believe €1, together with the first license of the ATMs. People there's many like parts where they can create their own plugins. So operators can create their own plugins for different identity verification, blockchain scanning, AML KYC plugins. There's also reporting plugins, or basically any functionality they want added, they can add themselves. When they're running their own server, they can just run that on their own server. If they want it to be included in like the future releases of the ATM software, CAS, at that point they can do a pull request, and we'll be able to incorporate it into the core distribution. So this is it's growing to like more and more fleet management tool. This is also one of the reasons many of our clients, they choose our software, because it's their business. They want to be in full control. They want to run it under their own hardware in their own office, with their own plugins, and this way they can sell certain coins which would normally not be as easily available, and they can decide to do a pull request and then add support to all the ATMs sold, all 15,000 of them, or they can decide to keep it for themselves and only run it on their own machines.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's like, for example, let me give you a practical example. Oh yeah, Disney, which I mentioned earlier. For example, if Disney would have these Disney dollars or tokens or points, they could use the NFC wristbands to communicate with the ATMs to sell Disney-based currency, and then buy and sell that using cash or card at kiosk machines, which are totally branded in their park style. That way, you would add a plugin on CACAS, the crypto application server, to support your coin, your wallet, your tokens. So, even though I'm like I like Bitcoin, I realize that for a system to succeed, it must be as open as possible and allow for any integration. Yeah. So this is CAS, basically, in a nutshell.
Okay. So, as I understood earlier when you mentioned that you have converted different machines to run the GeneralBytes software, GeneralBytes is also a software company that creates software for ATMs to allow them to run. And I'm looking at the GitHub repository right now to see what's going on here. I see that parts of the software are published under the GPL2 license, which means that they're open source. But is everything about the ATM open source?
Not yet. There's a certain. What we did is we at first the software was closed source, so we would develop it and do the updates. But then we gradually started to open source parts of the software to allow third parties to build on top of the ATMs. That meant at first it was coins, wallets, price tickers, exchanges. Then gradually we got more like reporting options and stuff like that. We gradually open source more and more. We really love open source. I mean, open source I think is the future. But what we're seeing is that for now is we want to gradually open source it so that we give as many options to our clients to customize our software, while at the same time we keep the core development in-house until like it makes it easier to and faster to develop than to do that in open source fashion. But as soon as there's something like finished to a point that we can say it's compartmentalized enough, it's open source. So yes, I think in the future everything will be open source, but it will be a gradual process and not like a big bang process because it's too security related for that at the moment.
Yeah, I realized that it might not be all open source when you mentioned about your incident that you had auditors for the code. Usually open source projects don't really need auditing because everyone out there can see them.
Correct. It's having the auditors, but it's also something we want for the not just the software, but also the mechanical aspects of the machine to make them better, more hardened. If it would be open source, yes, everybody can see all the software, but sometimes you can compare it to somebody who drops a wallet in a busy shopping mall. Somebody drops a wallet and somebody else sees the wallet. So what are they going to do? Are they going to announce and tell the world that they found a wallet? Or are they looking around and see if they keep the wallet and then it contents and decide they want to keep it for themselves? So there's security issues with that we want to make sure that they're properly dealt with. And sometimes, yes, we had an incident. The incident was there for 2 years, and auditing did not find any problems there. So, but it was there. So,
yeah, I was about to ask you this because you have had auditing. Is there any liability on their side? Do they take responsibility for not being able to find something that was exploited?
I'd have to check with legal. I don't have the answer to that question, but I'd have to check with legal. But yeah, we'd get separate companies to do that because two is always better than one, and both come with their own level of service and guarantees. So at the same time, I think security is not something you can say we have an audit and that's it. No, it's not the responsibility of the auditors. It's the responsibility of everyone within a company. Everything you do, if you're working with financial system, everything you do, if you make a new feature, you have to think about the security. And it's a mindset, in my opinion, not just an added band-aid to a product.
I guess this speaks also about the limitations of auditing, because an audit means that at one point in time, this company considered that the software is secure, but as time went on, I guess you added more features, you updated the software, and the audit was not always there, right?
The audits are done every 6 months or so. Don't pin me down on the exact date, but it's an ongoing process for exactly the reason as you just mentioned. Audit is nothing more than a moment in time, but for something that has been there for 2 years without getting noticed by anyone, that is definitely something an audit should have found. So that's also audits, like new audits, will look at what changes have been made to the code over the past, since the last audit. So it makes it easier to go over certain parts of software that need special attention because changes have been made there. So it's an ongoing process. We do that every half a year. So for 2, 4 times, 8 times, it should have been noticed. So that's
Yeah,
it's a
this is a
complex piece
good
of software.
incentive or a good push for you to go open source, I guess.
I agree, yeah, but we're currently beefing up the security department to go basically to get more people to work with it. Also help operators. Our support staff is actively working on helping operators secure their networks better by using a VPN. In a lot of cases, it is sufficient to reduce the attack vectors on software while you take a look at the software and try to keep improving there. But by reducing the number of attack vectors, this is, in my opinion, one of the first lines of defense. So this is why we are now also actively helping our operators to migrate to a solution with VPN and restrict access to backend server software.
I was actually curious because these machines are pretty big and pretty powerful in terms of what they do. Can they also run Bitcoin nodes to connect to the network to instantly validate? Maybe not function as hot wallets because that could be a bad idea. Anyone can take the hardware and extract the keys if they have the
Exactly.
tools.
I think this is a really nice question. I toyed around with the idea back in 2014 to add mining equipment to the different locations so that there would be like little USB miners working on inside the machines. There's always some space extra. Maybe you can get power from somewhere. So that would be nice. But we didn't because the mining hardware at the time, definitely back then, changed a lot, pretty often. Every half a year, mining equipment had to be replaced for something faster. And these ATMs are generally they are designed to run for at least 10 years. We give, I believe, 1 or 2 years warranty, but that's because the suppliers of the parts that make up the ATM, they are only guaranteed for 1 year. So we can't extend beyond that, but we design them to last for 10 years or longer. So this is why we keep upgrading the software, but all the components that are in the ATM, we can replace them or upgrade them at some point in time. Wait, Vlad, I'm diverting, of course. What was your original question again? The
Bitcoin
nodes.
nodes.
Yes, Bitcoin nodes. Yeah, so Bitcoin nodes. So then I thought, yeah, Bitcoin nodes is pretty cool if we would have like Bitcoin nodes running in the ATMs. As you say, storing any cash on it or any Bitcoin on it, actually storing it on the node in the ATM would be a terrible idea because if the ATM is physically attacked, then it would also mean that the Bitcoins are either gone forever or owned by somebody else, a bad actor in this case. Another limitation of the ATMs is that quite often they use the cellular modems to connect to the backend software. So there's limited data capacity, and they're not really the highest speed data links that they're using. Some of them are really slow speeds. So they use a special configuration setting, the low bandwidth. So they don't update the icons as often. They try to cache a little bit more and are more careful with the screensaver data usage and stuff like that. So it's more from a practical and manageability point of view that you don't want to run the Bitcoin node in the machine itself. But what we find is that most of our operators, they will run their own block explorer, their own fee estimation and stuff like that. They will do on a node that or a bunch of nodes that they have running. And also the block explorer they use can be a block explorer that is connected to their own node. So that's that way. Yes, there is always a node somewhere near you when you're using Bitcoin, but it might not necessarily be in the ATM itself for practical reasons. I think that answers your question, right?
Yeah. It's a bit contradictory, because the point of a node is to validate your own transactions and to use it. But if you have it, you only, I guess, help others synchronize faster with the network or validate the blocks, but don't actually use it as a wallet. You're gonna have to still delegate to some cloud wallet out there.
Or it's a self-hosted wallet. You can connect it to your own wallet. You can make your hot wallet or one of your nodes. You can connect it directly to the ATM. Still feed the ATMs from their own wallet, but the location of the node doesn't necessarily have to be in the ATM itself. It can be run in a secure data center where you hire some space, for example, and in that respect, I think it is beneficial to run your own node. It just removes another point of failure. Instead of selling Bitcoin as an ATM operator, you become Bitcoin by also using your own node for fee estimation, for sending out transactions, and maybe feeding into the ATM. This you can configure this. You can tie it into a direct node, but for practical reasons, not having the node itself in the ATM is usually the bandwidth limitations that are at locations. Just on a mobile network somewhere. Then it's better to keep the node in a data center, especially if many people are connected to it. If it's a Lightning node, for example, you want it to be like always online and always available. So it's better to run your Lightning node from your own data center.
Yeah, that's also another big topic. Lightning Network. You integrated Lightning Network with GeneralBytes. And I guess it's a huge breakthrough to be able to insert cash and get the money in your Lightning wallet instantly without waiting for any kind of confirmation.
Yes, people
That's
love
huge.
that. I think it's fantastic. It also destroys the whole business model behind many different altcoins. I mean, with Bitcoin and Lightning, it's so fast, and the Lightning URL, the LNURL, those it makes the whole payment system with the NFC cards work a lot better. It brings back point of sale opportunities that we used to have when Bitcoin just got started, 10 years ago or longer. We bought coffee with Bitcoin, and now we buy coffee with Bitcoin because coffee, but also we do it with the Lightning Network. So it's much faster, and it's very, I'm very excited about it. We were one of the first ATM manufacturers to support Lightning on the ATMs, and to celebrate that at Parallelnipolis, I think you can see it in the background. In the background, the blue light near the stairs, just on the right of there. That is the Red Bull machine they have at Parallelnipolis, and we use the CAS and the ATM software to basically make a Bitcoin operated, Lightning operated, but also Litecoin, but also Lightning operated Red Bull vending machine, because you can never have enough Lightning and you can never have enough Red Bull.
I can't really agree because I don't drink Red Bull, but I agree with the Lightning part.
Your dentist will love you. That stuff is really nasty for your teeth.
So you mentioned 3 important keywords that I should connect to another interview that I did last year. You mentioned Parallelnipolis, you mentioned Lightning, and you mentioned open source. And there's an open source ATM project that's called Blescomat, and it was also developed at Parallelnipolis in the basement at the Bordel. I think that's what they call it. And I think it's pretty cool. Have you heard of it? Have you tried it?
Absolutely, yes. I do keep an eye on the new developments. There's several of those DIY projects where you can make your own ATM. I think it's really nice if people are interested into like learning something about Bitcoin, learning something about electronics and technology, and it's a nice project. You can make your own ATM. You can sell a little bit of sats over the internet, and then that way you run your own BTM. But there's also a but there's limitation. Like the hardware is limited. The software is different. It focuses on Lightning payments only. But in many cases, if you have more of those machines and you run a network of them, the fleet management might be difficult to extremely difficult to maybe even impossible to scale beyond a certain number of machines. And this is, I think, that sets us apart from an open source DIY project like Blesco, the Blescomat, is that our software is really designed to run many machines and run them unattended. And that's the difference. I do like the project, and I think if any of the viewers, is triggered with ATMs and they just want to make an ATM for in their office, and you don't want to shell out like $300 for a conversion kit for a universal kiosk or a little bit more for a separate ATM, then make something using the Blescomat. The software is there, it's available, it's the parts are really cheap in making it. I mean, it's not really rocket science what it's doing. So but yeah, it's a nice project. Yes, I really admire the project in that it helps getting people interested in learning about Bitcoin, but also doing a bit with electronics. And at the end of the project, you actually have your own working, I don't know, safe deposit box, which you converted to Bitcoin ATM. So you can ask all your friends or at a party or in your shop, you want to try my ATM, just put some cash in. So yeah, cool. Yeah, I totally like to see those projects. I think it is the best way to make Bitcoin bigger is to build. We can't just wait and for the price to go up. We have to build stuff and make sure that this way people learn about Bitcoin and become more familiar with it. Yeah, no, like it. I think I answered the question correctly.
Yeah, you just said that we should not wait for the price to go up and we should build stuff. The price goes up because we build stuff. Without businesses, without education, without development, there's no way that Bitcoin would ever get a lot of demand just because it's scarce. We actually need to work towards explaining to people and making it easy for people to get into Bitcoin. Otherwise, it's just a toy for nerds.
I think you strike a very important point there. Yes, it's Bitcoin, the protocol, and it's the whole ecosystem around it is important for adoption, and it's art to convey the message. It's like education, but also pluggable components that are customizable, like ATMs, to increase the onboarding options. I think once there are more standardized components within the ecosystem, Bitcoin, it will appreciate in value. Yes, you're very right. If we would just sit and wait for price to go up, price doesn't just go up. You need to work it. You have a point there.
Martin, I remember watching this YouTube video from 2014 or something with two friends who went to a bar and they discovered that there's a Bitcoin ATM in the venue. And at one point, one of them was like, let me buy $100 worth of Bitcoin. And he did. And my camera died, but I'm gonna fix it. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to make here is that he failed to buy Bitcoin because the user interface on the ATM was terrible. And this was in the United States, so I'm not sure which company that was. And also there was this option at one point, there was a pop-up menu, and he had to choose if he wants to pay a transaction fee for the transaction that he was making. And he was like, no, I don't want to pay. And then he sat for hours in front of the machine waiting to receive the transaction, and he never did. And then he returned with the video and said, yeah, so the next day I finally received my Bitcoin, but it was the worst experience in my life. And as far as I know right now, ATMs are basically registering the transaction for the next block, even if they pay a higher fee.
Correct. This definitely wasn't one of our machines, I can tell, because we've always done the fee estimation for the transaction. We've always done this on the server side. You can't ask customers whether they want to have a low, medium, or high fee, because they will say, I don't want to have any fee, especially if it's their first onboarding onto Bitcoin. So this is something that needs to be set by the ATM operator. And usually the ATM operator will use their own node to check how busy is the mempool and what are the chances, or how much fee would I have to include to get this customer their cryptocurrency transaction within a reasonable amount of time. And reasonable amount of time being defined as before they pick up the phone and call your customer support department. Because if they start calling your customer support department, it's going to cost you more than what you make on such a transaction. So let me explain, because if there's many if there is many different transactions going on to the network and the mempool is full, you will need to include a higher fee transaction. A user on the ATM will not be able to know this. So the system will define what type of transaction it is, and will assign a value of a fee estimate to it. There's also an option for ATM operators to use to batch transactions. So this way, instead of sending out a transaction on the Bitcoin network for every transaction they make, they can make more efficient use of the block space by condensing a certain number of transactions, basically aggregate all the transactions for, say, 15 minutes or 10 minutes on all their ATMs together, and then make one transaction. This will make it so that they only pay for the fee once, so they save on fees. At the same time, they make more efficient use of the blockchain, so there's less congestion on the Bitcoin network or any of the other networks, blockchains that are supported and offer a batching functionality. There's different ways. You can say every 10 minutes, or every 10 transactions, or every a certain amount of transactions. So by combining these different settings, you can create a more efficient use of the Bitcoin blockchain, or whatever blockchain you're using for vending your coins. But in case of Bitcoin, this does save considerable space, and is one of the features that help operators really optimize network usage, reduce the amount of fees they have to pay, and at the same time give the end user a good user experience. Because that's if the user experience is not good, they will not return to your machine. So yeah, that's very important. And no self-defining fee estimates, and no pop-up windows either. They're all in the same field.
Yeah, the user experience got a lot better. But at this point, I want to give a shout out to two of the Bitcoin ATM OGs that I have met but have not joined the podcast, but you might know them. One of them is Zach Harvey, and I met him in person last year in Prague. He was presenting his own ATM line. I'm not sure what it's called. I should.
Yeah, Zach has been working in the industry with the Lama Su, I think is the brand.
Yeah, Lamasu. Yeah.
Let me just check. Let me go to the Coin ATM radar and then select if by manufacturers. It's like Zach, and there's also sorry. We've got there's currently we have 9,425 machines online on Bitcoin ATM. Then there's Genesis Coin with 8,000 machines. BitAccess with 6,000 machines, CoinCloud, Bitstop, Coin, Lamasu. There's 667 locations with Lamasu machines listed on Coin ATM radar right now.
666 plus 1. That's Zach Harvey.
667. Yeah. Yeah, it's strange how this is dynamic. In the past, they had in 2014, I believe, there was almost 80% market share was owned by Zach's company at the time, and we had very low number of machines, and we grew a lot, and I still think they sell, or they're in business. I don't really know, to be honest. I'm
Yeah, if
curious
you
what the
watch
other
the
OG
documentary
is.
The Rise and Rise of Bitcoin, which is on YouTube for free right now, you're going to see him at some New Hampshire libertarian conference, and I'm not sure what year that was, 2012, 2013 or something. And they were all
I think I
talking
have
about
the
Bitcoin.
video. I think I saw it. I have it on my Plex server somewhere. But yeah, it's and I'm really you're really making me curious now. Who's the second OG you mentioned?
The second OG is Evan Rose, and he was one of the
And he
first.
runs the Genesis coin. Yeah,
He got interviewed on television in the United States, and he spoke about ATMs. And what he did, I think, was he was the first person in the United States to convert a traditional ATM for cash into a Bitcoin ATM. And he made it
correct.
to national television.
It was Genesis coin, which is recently was I think founded by. He founded Genesis Coin at the time, but it's recently been purchased by Bitstop, one of their main clients. So they purchased the ATM company, and the software, Genesis Coin software, was basically a layer on top of the Gen Mega Universal Kiosk software. So he had a deal where they would make the ATMs or the kiosk software machines, and he would sell them with his software on there. So this is I think it's a different approach. We manufacture our own machines, but we also offer software solutions for other brands. Originally we always made our own machines. Somebody asks us, why don't you make the software work with the machine we already have? So yeah, challenge accepted.
So, what's the name of that website where you can see the amount of ATMs by each company?
That's coinatmradar.com. It's like coin as in Bitcoin, and then ATM as in ATM, and then radar as in find them all. And it lists. It isn't a complete list. I mean, we've sold over 15,000 machines, and there's only like almost 10,000 listed as being online. So, but it is, I think, one of the best resources in the industry for looking up an ATM in your area. I think they're doing a great job. They've been around since I don't know, since the early days. So yeah,
Yeah, I can see a long,
you're
long,
browsing.
long list of manufacturers, but they seem to have zero locations nowadays.
Correct. Many
Stuff like BTC
locations.
Riot.
That's the thing, Vlad. You said some countries want to get rid of ATMs, but they usually they don't just downright prohibit it. You know, we live in free countries, so they have to give a reason for getting rid of the ATMs. And in many cases, it is regulation, AML KYC functionalities that they claim are missing in the software. So people can no longer use that ATM in that specific country. We responded by constantly rewriting our AML KYC policies and allowing customers, the ATM operators, to apply those for the jurisdiction where they are required, and that allowed them to stay in business and basically keep their machines online. Like theoretically, like machines we built in 2013 with the latest software patches would still work, and they would still have all the features that one would expect to have from a machine they just bought yesterday. So I think it's important. Every machine that is online is an advertisement for our company. This is how we see it. So this is why we think it's more important to support our existing clients than to try and attract new clients. So yeah, customers, our current customers are the most important to us. They give us ideas for new software features. They give us valuable feedback, but at the same time, they're an advertisement for our brand as well. Even though most of our customers, they start their own brand and they really make the ATM their own with the prettiest vinyl wraps, nice screensavers, selection of coins, special help desk. Sometimes they have a wallet which they present to the end users. So there's lots of options for customization, but helping them is what keeps us in business.
I just got curious to see why most of the ATMs that I see in my area are from GeneralBytes, but it seems like Genesis Coin and BitAccess and BitStop are only operational in the United States, as far as I can see. But
Yes,
Lamasu seems to have two ATMs in my area. Maybe I should visit them.
Lamahu.
Lamasu. What do
Yeah,
you?
I'm just kidding with you. Yeah, I'm just kidding with you. But yeah, there is usually if you look on the map, Coin ATM radar map, you'll probably find the operator names of the machines that are in your area. And what we see is that once an operator tried a few ATM brands, they generally stick to one, and one is usually the one that scales easily or has like good customer support. Yeah, we have over 90% market share in most European countries where we are active, except I believe Poland, but like Switzerland, also one of the highest market shares. And many of our competitors, they focus on the US primarily because their software isn't internationalized to lots of different languages, is not compatible with countless different fiat currencies, might have problems with accepting foreign non-dollar cash. So then the options become fewer, and then quite often they select GeneralBytes. I think we sold to almost 120 countries now.
I see
So
that another one popular in my area is Shitcoins Club, but they do sell
that's, I
Bitcoin.
believe, a Polish brand. Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe that's a Polish brand, but I think it's primarily operated by the company making them. You know, where we don't run ATMs except few as testing our own software. Their approach is more to make the machines, but also run the machines. So I think it's enough work to concentrate on the machines itself, and in a very internet way is we think global, but we act local. I think a local operator better knows the market share and the market and the potential of the market than we might do. So therefore, we focus on the hardware and the software, and the operation side of it is in with GeneralBytes is usually done by the operator that creates their own brand around our products.
Yeah, that's another question that I should have asked earlier in the interview, because I'm not sure I figured out how the business model works entirely. After you have sold the ATM, do you collect any kind of fee from the transactions that are being made, or do you sell the machine and it's up to the buyer to figure out the business model? And since I asked this, is there any way to rent an ATM and pay a fee to GeneralBytes?
For lease options, we don't have any because we found that the companies arranging and providing leases, they have total different business interests. They're focused on getting as much cash out of the operator, while the operator wants to keep as much cash for themselves. And we focus on providing the operator with the best deals so the operator can grow as much as possible. So we found that the interest of a company that provides leases for equipment, it's not in any one of our interests. It's not operators' interest. It's not our interest. So we haven't found a good way to like have lease for that. It also introduces potentially a security problem where machines that would have be end of lease would have to be refurbished, and having that and the risk of security vulnerabilities there is one of the reasons we don't do that. We do have many ATM operators that eventually stop and then sell their equipment to another ATM operator. That's no problem at all. Those operators can just contact support, and we'll transfer the license and encryption keys to the new owner. So this is business model wise, an operator would typically get a location, provide buy and sell servers for crypto, and add a little markup for the service. Basically, the markup is theirs, and they use that to pay for the support desk, to maybe pay for some location rental, maybe pay for the machines and the other costs that might be there. So that's basically their business model. They can set their own fees for both buy and sell directions. So this way they can tweak and modify the rates to be competitive in areas where there's lots of buy crypto ATMs, but there are not too many sell Bitcoin ATMs. So for the sell direction, they could ask a little higher fee. What we usually see is that once there's more machines and more different operators in a certain area, that fees will come down on the purchase process. So this is just really a matter of the market maturing, that more machines probably means better pricing policies at those machines. Oh, sorry, your question was, do we collect a fee for transactions made? Yes, I believe there is a 0.25% fee. This is payable by the operators, but that's more of a software license fee than it is for us to be like a money spinner or anything. It's to make sure that we are able to develop the software and fix the software and bring out new releases. And those funds are usually directly used to pay for the developers developing the software. So I know our competition, Genesis Coin, is also charging a fee, but their fee is, I believe, 1%. So that's 3 times as high as, or 4 times as high as our fee. So in that respect, yes, we charge a little bit, but it also guarantees a constant flow of updates, new versions, bug fixes, new features for the client, the ATM operator. In the past, we had everything free, but we were in such a growth market back then that we could do this because of the enormous amounts of machines that were sold. So this basically paid for the development of the software behind it. But once we had the previous bear market, we saw that the number of smaller ATM operators was reducing, and they were selling their machines to larger clients of us. So those larger clients, they kept growing, but at the same time, there will be fewer orders for us, to a point that it became difficult to guarantee that the software will always be updated. And this is something, this is very important. You know, we need to help our existing clients, our customers, the ATM operators, with keeping their software secure and up to date and relevant to latest regulations. So there will always be a partnership with our clients where we provide them with new software. So we have to make sure that we are able to pay for that also, not just now, but also in, say, 10 years time. So we felt that it was necessary to do that. And also considering that we were like 75% cheaper than our nearest competitor. Most of our clients, they didn't mind paying a little bit to make sure that continuity is guaranteed. Another option I've seen with other operators is that they went total open source, but that also meant that if there is a problem, you have to fix it yourself. And that is not what you want as a business owner, where you already have so many things to focus on. So it is, I think, the best way to guarantee as much connectivity as possible, continuity as possible to our clients. It's important our clients are able to keep running their business and keep the machines relevant.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's difficult to sustain software development because absolutely. I guess at one point you're going to plateau in terms of sales. You're going to get to a certain point where there are not too many ATMs to be sold anymore because the countries or the places that want them already have them. So you're going to have to compete in the software department. And not only maintain the software that you have for your own machines, but to make it easy for other machines to migrate to your software. At least that's the way
Correct.
I see it with dominance, just like it happened
You're
with.
you're spot on with that. You're completely right. It is during this scaling up phase, it's very possible to like maintain the software because the revenue is generated from machines. But at one point, there will be saturation in the market, but the software will still need to be updated. And I think it's really important that we are able to supply our clients with updates, and also they depend on us because it's like a partnership. So therefore, yeah, it's I think it's a way for us to make sure that we can guarantee to our users that we'll be there and we'll be fixing forever instead of just a one-off sale. We're not selling boxes, we're basically a partnership.
Not only that, but if you look at, for example, IBM, they used to sell computers, and at one point they realized that the computers market is not as booming as it used to be, so they gave up on the hardware part and decided to focus only on software. And that's something that I expect to see also in the Bitcoin business space. I mean, Bitcoin
In a
is
way,
software
yeah.
already, but there's a lot of hardware being developed. At one point, maybe hardware wallets, maybe ATMs, and everything that's physical in the Bitcoin world is going to have to focus only on software and optimizing what's already out there.
I think you have a point there. In a way, it's already happening. If you look at the universal kiosk, the GM kit, which is a conversion kit, it's basically a software upgrade in a box with a computer for an existing Intel-based ATM kiosk platform. This is the software is more important in the end than the hardware. But we found that when we started looking for hardware, the options were limited. And we decided let's just make our own. But yeah, I think the real intellectual property is in the software, not necessarily the hardware.
Yeah, in the end, ATMs are gonna need very robust, developed software. And it's gonna be a war between operating systems for the ATMs as opposed to the hardware.
Correct. There's a large variety in the different components used in ATM, though. So there's like a few larger brands that make the cash acceptors. So that if you're making an ATM, then you have to have support for those. So if we're building a new conversion kit for an existing ATM, we have to look at all the different hardware that's used for the different series in their model or line of ATM. So this is always will require some work to get it like to make it so it will require a lot of effort to actually make it work. And but once that's done, yeah, it's done. I mean, it's the only reason RoboCoin is still alive. Like we're now seeing like the universal Gen Mega universal kiosks. I think it's like the same machine. I think Evan used. I'm not sure, but I think it's the same machine. But it's a widely available kiosk machine. So yeah, whatever the hardware, just put a GM kit on it, and it will work. And yeah, I think Bill Gates was the first one to realize. He also worked at IBM, and he was the first one to realize that it wasn't the box that was the money, but the money was in the software. So he licensed MS DOS to IBM, or PC DOS, what they called it back then, and Microsoft was basically born. For decades, we had terrible computing, but the guy was a genius. He saw it at the time.
I think Microsoft got big because of the accounting software, the Office suite, because people wanted to run that one. It was the most advanced for its time. So they had to
Office
migrate
was
to
generous.
Windows to run it. And then it was video
Yeah,
games. Nowadays, I'm pretty sure that most games don't work on Linux or Mac. So you have to buy a PC if you are a gamer. So there are lots of reasons there to run that crappy software that never was really great. It always had bugs and issues and viruses. I think half of my teenage years consist of me just formatting my Windows XP computer because it was getting viruses.
Windows XP. You know what it means, the XP, yeah? Vlad.
No
Windows XP is
experience.
Expired. If you're still running it, you're in problems. Windows expired, and I think it was followed up by Windows NT, which was Win doesn't. So no, I do everything on Ubuntu Linux now. I'm a real geek in that respect.
That's ideal, I guess. So, what else do I want to ask before I end this interview? Because it's been really long. Actually, something very important, and it came to my mind just a few minutes ago while you're talking. I realized that I never asked you about warranty on the units. So, you buy the ATM, you pay 0.25% fee to GeneralBytes to maintain the software and provide updates. But do you provide actual support for the units in case something happens to them?
In case, for example, there's a defective component, all the components are, I believe, minimally 1 year of warranty. We would want to warrant them for longer because they are made to last a lot longer. Like the touchscreen is industrial, cash dispensers, we only use like best in market, but our suppliers give us 1 year warranty on those. But should something ever fail, there's no need to ship back the ATM to us. We can just swap out the component for a new one, and have a little video on, and that will show you how to replace that specific component in your ATM, and then it will just run again without any problems. So yes, this is it's for us. It's important. It's easier to keep an existing machine online than to sell a new machine to a client, but also because it's an investment they made in their company, and it should be supported as such. So yes, hardware parts, I believe for at least 8 or 9 years, we can guarantee availability of any replacement parts, and should it be within warranty, then of course there's warranty on all the parts. Yes, wouldn't be very good otherwise, to be honest.
How much of the ATM is made by GeneralBytes, and how much of it do you outsource in terms of parts from other companies?
The manufacturing of the ATM itself, so like the folding of the steel and basically the manufacturing, is all done by us. We do that in-house. We have 2 production facilities where we create the ATMs. But for like components inside the ATM, I think for every ATM there's roughly 70 different suppliers for components. So it's a logistical challenge to get all the components there at the same time. But thanks to the guys at Tech, the founder of the company, Karol Kijowski, and everybody working there, there's a good ERP system that keeps track of those components and makes sure that all the components are there at the moment a new ATM is put together. So yeah, but the machine itself, the design is all in-house. So also the electronics, there's the computing module we might outsource, but the motherboard where it's on, the interface is on the motherboard. That's all designed by us. I think this it really makes it better if you have full control over both the hardware and the software in the machine. You can just make a better machine. And yes, you can outsource all the hardware suppliers to OEM third parties, but then you don't have full control over the entire line. And I think if you want to make a good product, it's better if you're in control.
Yeah,
but
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I have any more questions at this point. How can people follow GeneralBytes? How can they keep up with what they're doing, or what you're doing, and maybe get an ATM?
Most of your viewers are on Twitter, I believe. I think this is where you have your largest following. So on Twitter, we're at GeneralBytes. Then on Facebook, we're at GeneralBytes. We're still working on Nostr, though. You got to go on Nostr. Nostr is the next big decentralized thing, in my opinion, for social media. But we'll be there soon. Check out our website, www.generalbytes.com. You can also leave the www off because nobody does that anymore, but generalbytes.com. And you can toy around on the product page. You can go to the configurator and toy around with different configurations. It will update the image and will update the specs too. So that's I think is nice for if they want to learn a bit more. Of course, you can always email us. I can be reached at marketing@generalbytes.com, but the guys at sales are there, sales@generalbytes.com. Or if you have questions and need support, or maybe if you need pre-sales support, then just go to support@generalbytes.com. So drop us a line. We also answer questions on Instagram and Twitter, but they're usually handled by the marketing department. So if it's a tech question, we always suggest put it in an email. We'll create a ticket and we'll get someone skilled to answer any questions you might have.
What about you, Martin? Do you have any social media presence?
I'm tweet on Twitter, TWIET. It's Dutch tweet in Dutch, but I'm on Nostr. I like Nostr. I like Nostr because it's like a happy vibe bubble. So I'm currently experimenting with Nostr, but I can call you the NPUB here, but it's still very long. So on Instagram, I'm Poladroid on 71, but I don't really use it. For me, I'm 51. I'm not really the social media person. I like social media because it helps stay in touch with people from the community and it helps the company. But I don't really. I found out with all the social media, I'm not that social, but.
Yeah, I noticed. You haven't been on any English podcasts, which for me is great, but I'm not sure if it's great for publicity for GeneralBytes.
We focus on the product, not the presentation.
Which is the best approach you can have.
I think so, yes.
Okay, Martin, so thank you very much for your time. I feel like I've learned a lot from you in these 2 hours.
If there is any questions, let me know. And as I said, thank you. It's really nice to be on your show. You're a pretty famous person with the Bitcoin takeover. You do great on the social media. And you seem to pop up at all the conferences wherever lately. So I think this is really nice, and it was a nice opportunity to be in your show. And I love the background on your virtual background. I think it's really cool. You have to let us know who the artist is that created it.
Yeah, this is Mihai Dimache. He's an architecture student from Romania. He's a friend of mine. He designs these. He actually got into animation because I told him to. I realized that he's good at drawing, and I told him, why don't you try something with animation? And
it's fantastic.
Designed these. It's not technically hard to produce the animation, but it's conceptually hard to create something from scratch. And I appreciate his vision. Like, if you look at the spaceships behind me, so this one goes behind the building and then in front of the building and so on. So to me, it's kind of mind-blowing that he had this vision, this perspective, which I would have never had if you let me create something. But this is why we have the division of labor and different types of roles. But one last question for you, Martin, right now is, so people have been listening to this. Hopefully they got to this point. If they did get to this point, well, what should they say? Like a secret word that only special people who listen up to this point are going to mention in the comments.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I don't know. I don't know, Vlad.
You have cake behind you. Maybe they can say, I like cake.
Oh, I hate carrot cake.
I hate carrot cake. Say, I hate carrot cake in the comments.
I hate carrot cake in the comments, yes. And then Vlad will know, and we will know that you watched all the way up until this part of the show. That's a good one.
Yeah, if you did listen up to this point, you're a hero, so you deserve acknowledgement. I'm gonna pin your comment, put it at the top of the comment section if you do that.
Perfect. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because this is one of the best podcasts out there.
Yeah, thank you. You're complimenting me. a lot right now. So thank you very much. And maybe in the future, we're going to do another one where you mentioned that you sold a lot more ATMs and developed new software or whatever. Doesn't matter. Or maybe you did something cool with your implant and it's worth mentioning.
Oh, Vlad, the implants are so 2014.
What's next?
I don't know. The future is in beta, you know?
Of course. So thank you, Martin.
Thanks for having me on your show. And goodbye, guys at home.
Are you concerned that your friends, neighbors, or KYC exchange might know how much Bitcoin you own? It is time to take your financial privacy seriously with Wasabi Wallet, a free and open source wallet solution which makes use of mega coin joins to mix your coins with those of hundreds of other strangers. Thanks to the groundbreaking Wabi Sabi engine, your coins get divided in smaller, untraceable units, which grant you great anonymity for both hodling and spending. Download Wasabi Wallet 2.0 today at wasabiwallet.io and take advantage of the mega coin joins. It's free and it's open source, so don't trust, verify. CryptoSteel are innovators in Bitcoin cold storage. Back in 2013, they launched the CryptoSteel cassette, which made it easy to back up your seed phrase, passphrase, or any other form of private key on the sturdy metal which resists water, fire, and earthquakes. Today, CryptoSteel offers the Motherload, an all-in-one box which endows you with everything you need to become financially sovereign. Inside of the Motherload, you get a CryptoSteel capsule and a hardware wallet of your choice. All CryptoSteel products are engineered and manufactured in Poland. Order your CryptoSteel metal backup system today on cryptosteel.com and use promo code BTCTKVR at checkout for a 10% discount on your first order. CryptoSteel, secure your wallet seed phrase. Are you a writer, photographer, musician, or video creator who's trying to generate some revenue? Bumby is the Bitcoin way to monetize your content. It's more censorship resistant than any other platform of its kind, with a low and flat one-time fee of 10%. Bumby is as easy to use as any social media mobile application. Sign up today at Bumby.com and subscribe for free to the Bitcoin Takeover account to get access to some time-exclusive content. If you are monetizing your creativity, why not get paid in Bitcoin for it? Bumby.com, the Bitcoin way to monetize your content. Shopping with your Bitcoin on the internet is easy. Shop&Bit is Europe's biggest Bitcoin store with over 800,000 products, ranging from Bitcoin books, toothpaste, mobile phones, computers, and watches. This month, I bought a Nintendo Game & Watch console with the classic Legend of Zelda, and it arrived in only 5 working days. And if you can't find what you're looking for, Shop&Bit has got you covered. Their concierge service will get you anything and ship it worldwide. Additionally, they also have a travel hacking service that can get you the best deals on all things travel, flights, hotels, and more, for business and for vacations. Bitcoin Takeover listeners get a nice discount, of course. Use code BTCTKVR on your first order for a one-time €5 discount. For more details, go to shopinbit.com. Shop&Bit, Europe's biggest Bitcoin store.